for me, and I welcome their hatred.
What is up, everyone? This is Hater Radio. My name is Chris McLean. I'm here with my co-host, Ian Gibson. How are you, Ian?
I'm doing good. Crazy Saturday and Friday, and ready for a crazy reveal here.
Yeah, I mean, this is the live reaction show. This is our, it's honestly, I feel like this is the culmination of a lot of work that we put in all year of trying to figure out who the best teams are. And I think that we do a very good job of breaking down these games. And I think it all comes to a head today with the work that me and you, Ian, put into this. So, we every week here at Hater Radio, we break down like anywhere from 15 to 20 games that are relative towards playoff implications. And, I can't get every game. I know Ian does a better job than I do, and especially the G5 teams. But, I watch at least 4 to 5 hours a week of like 15-minute recaps. And we try to do the best we can to be as knowledgeable about these teams. So we're not just, making up opinions and just saying, oh, we think this team. No, we actually watch the tape. And so we have a really good idea of who these teams are. I think, and I'm not even just saying this, but it seems like with a lot of these national media people, I don't know if they even do what we do every week, because it doesn't seem like it, the way they talk about certain teams. And it is a shame because they have a lot of clout when it comes to their opinion towards how things are shaped. And so, I think a lot of what we've done here with Hater Radio is to be as objective as possible. Yes, we acknowledge our bias as far as the teams that we cover. Ian's wearing a USF jersey for Christ's sake. Like, we're not trying to avoid the fact that we are fans, because we are fans. Ian goes to USF. I went to USF. We both cheer for Florida as well. We also cover USC and UCLA because I live out here in LA. But we do this as acknowledging the fact that those are our biases, and we're not going to avoid it. We're not going to shy away from the fact that we are fans as well. And to that point as well, we will try to be as objective while acknowledging those biases. And I think that's where we perform better than most, because a lot of them don't acknowledge the fact that they're biased. They may say, oh yeah, and most people know, Chris Doering went to Florida, or Danny Cannell went to FSU, or certain guys went to certain schools. You're like, oh, those guys went to those schools, so you know what their bias is. But I think we're more open about it, and we're upfront about it. I mean, I wear Florida stuff all the time on the show to make it be known we are fans of these teams. And, I think that's where we separate ourselves from other people, and that's just what we try to do. But with that being said, let's jump into it. Okay, this is the recap of conference championship game, but more importantly, this is the live reaction to the CFP rankings, which I think is obviously more important than just the conference championship game. But we will do our analysis of the championship games. Let's start off on Friday. We had two huge games. Boise State in the Mountain West Championship game against UNLV. I mean, Boise looked really good. I mean, offensively, they were not amazing, but they did basically what they do all year. They're very effective in the ground game with Jeanty, who we will talk about on Wednesday about his Heisman candidacy, which it looks really good after this game. He had over 200 yards, but they're able to control the ball with Jeanty, running it very well. He had a huge run near the end of the half there to put them up 21-0. Their passing attack is not amazing, but it is good enough to supplement what they do with the run game. And UNLV was just stymied almost the entire game until really the fourth quarter, where they did end up getting a touchdown and then had a chance late to get it to a one-score game, but couldn't convert. So, Boise gets the win, moves on to more than likely a first round bye, which I don't think anybody would have thought coming into this year. And they deserve it. I think their close loss against Oregon, their 2 wins against UNLV, a very good team who played Syracuse really tough. So they deserve everything that they're getting. I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see that, Big Noon Kickoff was doing a huge push for Ashton Jeanty at that football game. Especially Mark Ingram. He didn't say that he was going to vote for him, but he did a lot of pub for them in that game for Ashton Jeanty. So that was really cool to see. Ian, your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, and this was like the prototypical Boise State kind of game, just wear the team out. And they jumped out early, and the defense did a good job catching up and, making sure UNLV didn't have too many chances. They went up, 21-0 in halftime, and they didn't let UNLV get any points until well into the fourth quarter. And at that point, it was getting a little hairy because 2 possessions is a very dangerous lead. It's like, for me as a hockey fan, it's like a 2-goal lead is the most dangerous one.
The most dangerous lead in hockey.
Yeah, exactly. So same thing with in football. Yeah. But I had complete faith that not only was Boise State going to be able to make those stops, but again, with Jeanty, when you can feed somebody like that, and no matter how many times they put somebody in the box, he's going to get, 6 yards per carry is, something pretty, impressive for Boise State. But all in all, they were, well deserving of the Mountain West Championship. They played a really good game. And yeah, like you said, if you were to tell me of the 4 teams to get a bye, a group of 5 team would get one of them, I would have put some bet some lottery numbers on that one at the beginning of the year.
Well, then also now you look at, and we're going to talk about this game next, but the American Athletic Conference champion winner, Army, is 11-1, dominates Tulane, and if they beat Navy next week, I know it goes out of like the playoff ranking situation here because they're out of that game, but like it's like 12-1 team. Don't they deserve to be in the playoff? And I'm like, I don't know. It's tough because they only lost to Notre Dame. They did get smacked, but it was the one loss, and they've beaten other decent teams all year. But let's get into it. So Army beats Tulane, 35-14. They dominated. Daly had a huge game, had 4 TDs on the ground. I think he has 29 on the season, so he's right there with Jeanty. And, the team is a machine, literally. I mean, that's how the military works. It's basically they are very efficient with how they do things. It's they are able to convert. They hold on to the ball forever. Their defense is solid. They forced a couple of turnovers that really kind of changed the tide of this game. It was, Army played honestly, I think if they had another game against Notre Dame, I think they could play this way. I don't know why they played as bad as they did against Notre Dame. I actually didn't get a chance to watch like a traditional condensed game of that one. And I wish I did, because I didn't really truly understand why it went as bad as it did for Army, because I feel like this team is capable of doing this to other good teams. Like, they completely dominate on one side of the ball on offense to the point where it demoralizes that other team. And so they're able to control the clock and basically give the other team like no time at all to do anything. And then their defense is solid enough. Obviously, their DBs can cover, especially a team like Tulane, who is a very good team, who's put up a ton of points against some pretty good teams all year. So I don't know. I mean, I like this Army team a lot. It's a shame that they're not going to get in the playoff. I'm excited about an expanded playoff to 16, because at 16, I would think they should deserve to get in. So like going forward, like they're not going to shut out a team like this, because it's almost not fair. It really isn't. Like, I think 16 is probably the best number for all these teams. And I feel like, 12 was like, yeah, we're there. And then like 16, I think is going to be the right number. Because if you look at it like with the NFL, it's like 16, 18. They had 16 forever. Now they have, I believe it's 18, right?
And which one? The
NFL?
It's, oh God, I don't know anymore.
Because I know they added an extra wild card like a few years ago. I don't know exactly what the number is. But anyways, usually most playoffs are around that anyways. You have 16 for NBA and NHL. MLB has gotten higher, obviously, in the last few years. So, like, really, and, you even see with MLB playoffs where the Diamondbacks went from the wild card all the way to, the World Series. It is possible. And, I know people always they look at the 4-team playoff from the last 10 years and they're like, well, these teams, whatever, didn't blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't make a difference. I think it does make a difference because it's like the longer playoff run you have, there's greater likelihood of injuries, greater likelihood of some random luck coming into play. And so, you need a lot to come into play for you to be able to win a championship now, where it's like, even with the BCS, like Florida State for a few years, they just needed to get to the championship game and that was all they needed. And, they lost a bunch in those years in the early 2000s. And it's like, but they only needed to get to the BCS championship and they did it in 2013. And they played a 3-loss Auburn team who should have never been there. And, I don't know. I think, the BCS had its positives. They had the ability to use mathematical equations to be able to figure out who are the better teams. And I agree that aspect seems like a strong thing to implement towards the playoff. But they didn't have more than 2 teams, which I'm sorry, that's not good enough. We cannot have a sport that is billions of dollars where only 2 teams are allowed to compete for the championship. You need several teams, and 12 is where we're at, and I'm glad we're here. Ian, your thoughts on Army as I'm expounding about expansion?
No, you're all good. Army, again, same thing with Boise State. Army did what Army, has been doing all year. You hit the nail on the head that they're just an absolute machine on both offense and defense. Play keep away, smother the run. And there was really nothing. Mensah, we know how athletic he is and a really good quarterback in the American, but he just could not keep up with the attack that Army had. And that Tulane defense, which was really good in the American, that sort of like just, downhill running, there was no way they could stop him because there were so many options for either Daly to run it or Udo to option it to, something like that. There are just too many ways for them to try to contain it. And it was really just simple. It was like, find whoever that Tulane linebacker is and run through his face. That was literally the game plan. And Army's the best at that. So all in all, great win for Army. Great inaugural season for them in the American, winning the conference championship for the first time. And just really caps in a really tremendous season for them.
Yeah. And, it really is amazing. We've had Army win the AAC the first year in it. You have Arizona State win it in the Big 12. You have Oregon win it in the Big 10. And then you have Texas take Georgia to the wire. And, if they had kicked some field goals early and made those, they probably would have won that game. And so it would have been 4 of the bigger conferences with newcomers coming in and winning it. So it's kind of crazy. Let's move on to, speaking of Arizona State, Big 12 championship game. This was the only real massive blowout of the weekend. And it was very surprising because Iowa State was actually moving the ball quite well in the first half. They just couldn't capitalize. And they started moving the ball in the first half a little bit. And then it just imploded. In that third quarter, it was fumble loss, interception, and Arizona State was taking advantage. As soon as they got those turnovers, they were in good territory and they converted really quick. And again, you know, I know people are starting to know who this kid is, but like Scatterboo, man, I swear this kid is just a beast, man. He cannot be stopped. He is so hard to get on the ground because he's like, it's not only is he really fast, but he's like solid block. And so he's short. He's probably about like a little bit shorter than me. I think he's like 5'9". But he's so like solid on the with his balance that he like cannot be knocked down. And so you'll see him get hit like 5-6 times and he just like turns back, like he's constantly like keeping his balance no matter how hard he's hit. And it really is impressive. He had a monster game here, I think over 200 yards, at least 2 TDs, just crazy big game from him. You know, I was surprised with Sam Levitt because their main target, their 1,000-yard receiver, I can't remember his name, but he went out. He hurt his arm in the Arizona game, so he's out for the year. So I didn't think Sam Levitt was going to be able to have a huge passing game, but he still looked really good. Had at least 2 passing TDs that I can recall in my notes. I think he had at least an additional one, but they win 45-19. And this game was in the second half. It was just a blowout. It was a laugher. Your thoughts, Ian?
Yeah, and this one, I called Iowa State winning this one, and it was very surprising to see Arizona State just because they were a bit depleted. But man, the 3 turnovers they forced were like just killers, especially the one where it hit off the helmet. And it was an interception. I mean, that was just brutal. Yeah. But yeah, once it got to the second half and even like just the second quarter, it was like 45-10 at one point, and it was well out of range.
You mean third quarter?
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. But yeah, Arizona State, like you said, when you had a bounce attack like they had with Scatterbo and Levitt, because Levitt was able to find guys in those drag routes. And obviously Scatterbo was a really tough guy to tackle, so they were able to get those positive net gains. So it was like every play they were averaging like 5, 6, 7 yards per play. And that's a winning formula right there because you're in second and third down manageable situations. And they just like, you know, nickel and diamond down the field and just punched it in. But yeah, great. You know, again, talk about a great welcome to the Big 12 for Arizona State. They win it. They're going to the playoff for sure.
Might get a first round bye.
Exactly. They very well could. But all in all, yeah, just really great game for Arizona State. They saved their best for the conference championship.
Yeah. Let's move on. Probably the tightest game of the day. SEC championship game in Atlanta, Georgia, Texas. You know, that first half, Texas was dominant, and it felt like if Texas could punch in for a touchdown or 2, they would have probably won this game easily. But they kept having to settle for field goals. And then not only settling for field goals, but then Bert Auburn misses 2 of them. So instead of being up at one point like 12-3 or 12-6, it was like a 6-3 game at half. And then Georgia scores a touchdown to go up 10-6. Georgia gets another field goal to go up 13-6. Texas ties it later. And then Georgia gets another field goal to go up 16-13. Carson Beck got hurt at one point, so Gunnar Stockton was in there, and which he did adequate. He didn't do amazing, but he did have that bad interception where they were about to close out the game, and then Stockton throws the interception. Texas gets the ball, goes down the field, ties it with a field goal, forces overtime. Auburn, you know, did hit that field goal there, and then they go into overtime. They get their drive stalled, and they hit a field goal. They're up 3 points, and then Trevor Etienne scores a touchdown to win it. Gunnar Stockton took a nasty hit. It was clean though. The guy used his shoulder, and it just looked brutal. Watching him try to get up, Gunnar Stockton, it looked like he was concussed because his knees were wobbly. You know, the look on his face. Even my my wife, who's a medical professional. She said the signs were there for a concussion. And, I don't know. Like, if that game had kept going, I would hope that they would have kept him out. But I honestly don't know what would happen. I'm glad that the NFL has started to have these people looking at stuff as things happen. I saw a game the other day where like a guy was like 3 plays later and they stopped play on the field and said, we need to take this guy out because he was looking bad. So like, I'm so glad that the NFL has something like that. I think the college game needs to implement something like that too, because it's scary. Like, that is not cool, because if he went back in, who knows what would have happened to him, because they would have kept going. Honestly, if Georgia doesn't score a touchdown there, that game could have lasted another several overtime periods. And I know it's just 2-point plays, but still it would have been ridiculous. But Ian, your thoughts?
So, this was maddening, because for one thing, obviously we may have said I am a Gators fan, and usually I do prefer any team to beat Georgia. It's in my blood. I can't help it. I do admit Georgia is a fantastic program and team, and they definitely earned this win. But once again, the same thing that happened in Austin, Texas was their own worst enemy.
Yeah. And
that's what was so maddening. I was texting people that, how is Texas losing this game? Because they were outplaying them in the first half. And they got in their own way. Now, Georgia definitely answered the bell, and they did not back down at all when they were getting dominated. But they saw that scoreboard, and they didn't let it they didn't let the play on the field affect them. They just said, look, we're still in this. And they definitely proved it. And they showed a lot of wherewithal in this game. But 3 turnovers and 11 penalties and the 2 missed field goals is beyond unacceptable in an SEC championship.
Yeah.
And like I said, honestly, Texas was outplaying Georgia, but they had to settle for field goals, the ones they did make. And then they had the 3 turnovers. And then, again, the 11 penalties, and some of them were at the most inopportune time. And it was just maddening, because I'm like, Texas is in my opinion, Texas is the better team.
Yeah.
But they got in their own way again. And you could be the better team on paper, but you weren't the better team on the field. That's what I always say. And they were their own worst enemy. And if you're going to make that many mistakes against Georgia, no shot. They're honestly, I remember when they went into overtime, I said, with how much Texas has shot itself in the foot, they're lucky this game is in overtime. And it was just really, frustrating, because I called Texas to win. I did kind of want them to win, obviously, as a Gator fan, but Georgia deserved it more, in my opinion. They deserved to win that game because they made the smart plays. They were able to come back, not get, affected by the score being dominated, and just Texas couldn't recover. Again, they just couldn't get out of their own way. That was who Texas beat Texas more than Georgia beat them.
Yeah, for sure. And even Steve Sarkisian said at halftime, and it was a very brief interview, just how pissed he was that, Georgia wasn't being called for anything. And literally, they called at least 3 or 4 holdings in that first half on Texas, which, okay, granted, maybe there's holding. There probably is. There's holding on almost every play. And, but they didn't call any holdings on Georgia, which I'm just okay, if you're going to start calling holding on one team, you need to do the same on the other, because there were clearly holds on Georgia that Georgia was doing as well. And, he had a point, and I'm glad that he brought it up. I'm glad he was pissed. I'm glad he didn't sit there with Laura Rutledge and just, ruminate on that. He just was he let them know why he was pissed and why there should be something done about it, because this is ridiculous. And then there was video of Kirby Smart running down in the white of the sideline where you're not supposed to be as a coach. You're supposed to be further back, and he's just running all over. Man, some of the clown stuff that this guy does. I mean, Kirby is just it's ridiculous, and he gets away with so much stuff, and it's just I don't know why we've gotten to the point. I mean, I guess he is basically the Saban now, because Saban's gone, and really the only other person that has any other clout besides Kirby is Dabo. And, that's it, like, so, and there's no other coach with a championship besides those two. So, like, this is all we have as the royalty of college football. And I get it. But at the same time, it's just like, you're trying to have a championship game with, two teams, and it's supposed to be a neutral field. And I saw some other people say about this, like, okay, we've had it in Atlanta for a while now, but now it seems like it's a really huge advantage for Georgia to be there, because Georgia wasn't there all the time for 20 years. Now, the last 7-8 years, they've been there a lot. And it's like, okay, this is seeming to be a real big advantage for them. It's basically a home game for them. I would agree that we need to move it around. There's no reason why we can't move it to, Jacksonville or to Charlotte or to just different locations in the South. Having it strictly in Atlanta, I just it's an unfair advantage. I mean, they move basketball tournaments all the time to different places. There's no reason why, the SEC championship game can't move. It was in Alabama for the first 3 or 4 years. It's like no reason why we can't move it. But no, besides that, Georgia, I don't know. I'm looking at their yardage. They had 277 yards. Gunnar Stockton had 71 passing yards. Carson Beck only had 56 at the half. I thought Quinn Ewers played a hell of a game. He had a couple of bad passes. The one interception early wasn't really his fault. The wide receiver didn't even fight it off. Like, if he had just put any effort in, that wouldn't have been a pick. So, and he did have that one bad interception, and there was like another one or two that were like badly thrown that weren't picked that probably should have been. But he had a great game, 358 yards. I don't know. I saw a lot of people talking crap about him. I don't know why they would talk crap about him, yet Carson Beck, who is supposed to be a first-round pick, looked like trash. So, I've liked Quinn Ewers really honestly since that Alabama game in Texas 2 years ago. So I've been a fan of his. I think he's a very good player, very good quarterback, deserving of at least a second-round pick, maybe first-round pick, depending on who comes out and whatnot towards the draft. But, Texas, with this loss, they're not done, obviously. They're going to be in the playoff. More than likely probably get a home game, which I think they would probably be the 8th seed. And I think they deserve it. I think they're, 2 losses to the SEC champion shouldn't, really downplay their position. I think they're better than being a road playoff game. I think they deserve to have a home playoff game. But let's move on to the Big Ten Championship, Oregon, Penn State. Oregon, man, I'll tell you what, man, they looked really good. They looked like the number 1 team in the nation. They definitely deserve that number 1 seeding. The game was closer at the end, but I mean, there were points where Oregon was up 18 points and just kind of dominated throughout this game. I will say that Drew Aller for Penn State looked better than I have seen him in many games, especially a big game. They still lose this game, but I think Penn State is, capable of beating some of the lower seeds. So if they have a home playoff game, I think they will probably win it. Now, when it comes to like the top end teams, I don't think they can beat Oregon. I still don't think they can beat Ohio State. I don't think they could beat a team like Georgia. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe Georgia's going to be wounded because obviously Carson Beck is going to be, maybe hurt for that game. Who knows? He gets a week off, so we'll see. But I don't think Penn State's going to go far in the tournament. I think they'll be able to get a good playoff home game and they'll win that. But your thoughts, Ian, on this game?
Yeah, and like you said, Oregon just showed why they were the number 1 team. Gabriel had a fantastic game, the offense to match. Even though Penn State had over 500 yards, so this is a thing with the defense is that they definitely put their foot off the gas towards the end of the game because Penn State was in it. They were it was an 8-point game a couple times, but Oregon did a good job responding, and the went out to that fast start. I think they were up 21-10 at one point. But then, like I said,
at one point.
Yeah, and then Penn State cut it down. I think it was 28-24, and then into the fourth quarter, it went to 38-30.
Yeah, it was back and forth a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, but then Oregon had like an insanely long, like 12-play drive. And that was just like the nail in the coffin because they were just playing keep away, making sure Penn State didn't have that ball. Allard did have a really good game. It was probably his best of the season. But there was only so much he could do. He didn't have too much help, and they became very one-dimensional. But he definitely did a lot better than some of these other schools did against that Oregon defense.
Yeah.
But all in all, Oregon wins it. Once again, great, introduction to the Big Ten. And they, will get the first seed in the playoff for sure. And all just a great win for the Ducks.
Yeah. Let's move on to this last one because it looks like ESPN is almost onto the show. So last one we have is the ACC SMU versus Clemson. This game looked like it was going to be a laugher because Clemson was up 14-0 quick. Jennings came back with a TD run to make it 14-7. And then Klubnik had another TD pass to make it 21-7. I was like, oh, this game's over. But Jennings kept making plays. They missed a bunch of field goals, both teams. But then Clemson got one near the end of the half, made it 24-7. Brashard Smith, really good running back. I liked him a lot. He played a really tough game in this one. They got it to 24-14 on his wheel route. And then Klubnik got another touchdown, and they were up 31-14, and it seemed like this was over. But SMU kept coming back. They got it closer, and then tied it with 16 seconds left, 31-31, and you're like, oh, we're going to overtime. And then, boom, huge kickoff return, a little catch for like 16 yards, puts them in position for Clemson, 56-yard field goal, 34-31, and Clemson wins. Just a great game, great finish. I was watching on my phone. I was totally surprised because I was watching as they tied it, and I just assumed they were going to overtime. Mm-hmm. And then I saw like 5 minutes later, I was like, what? 34-31, it's over. I'm like, how did that? And then just kind of a amazing finish there. Your thoughts, Ian, before we get into the rankings up here?
I'll just make it quick. SMU definitely showed a lot in that game because they were down, and they were down bad, but they were able to, come back, make it almost into overtime. But prevent defense prevents you from winning. That's all I'll say. They played there.
I hate that too. I hate when teams are like, oh, let's just get in prevent. No, man, play your base defense because your base defense got you there. There's no reason to jump out of it. It honestly, prevent defense does nothing but just gets them down the field quicker. I don't get why. I know they're afraid of an explosive play, like a 60-yard TD, but I would rather give up a 60-yard TD because at least you get the ball back quicker. If you if you let them, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Prevent just is it's a dumb way of doing defense, and defensive coaches have done it for decades, and it just makes no sense. So there are some smart minds that don't do that, and those are usually ones that are championship winners. So, okay, so the ranking show is now officially on. So we're officially towards that. So let's jump into it. Ian, I want to give me some of your thoughts, if you want to give your rankings or not before they do it, but go ahead.
Yeah, so my ranking, and I don't have this in particular order because it's kind of just a grab bag right now. But who I have the buys and I have all that. Let me get it up here real quick. So my conference champion winners, obviously I have them all there. I have Oregon, Georgia, Boise State, and Arizona State with my buys.
And everybody else is that ranked in order 1 through 4?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Well, not 1 through 4, but highest conference champion will get the bye. And then Clemson would be the conference champion to be in a play-in scenario.
Yeah.
Then I have, again, no particular order. These are just the teams I got. Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame probably stays in. Ohio State, Tennessee, SMU stays alive and Indiana. And with that, Bama gets pushed out. Because
Bama
it's
and
going to be
Miami and
really
South
hard for me to tell an
Carolina.
8 ranked SMU you're out of the top 12 for a 3-loss Bama team that lost to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. That's going to be. I would be very surprised with that. Again, this committee's done crazier things, so not out of the realm of possibility. But I that is my at least playoff teams. I don't have the order of who plays who, but those are my teams. I have who's got the bye and who's got everybody else that's in.
Yeah, and I think I agree. I mean, if SMU had been blown out last night, I think it would have been harder to argue them. But because they forced overtime and Jennings looked as good as he did, and the offense is very potent, I think that's why people are like, okay, this makes sense. And it's also, I saw a lot of Alabama fans arguing that they need to never schedule harder opponents again outside of their conference. And I'm like, how does this make any sense? Because SMU scheduled both BYU and TCU, and they're likely going to get in. So why would how that logic runs anything? I don't know. They're just the funny thing is that Bama has been the darling of the playoff for its entirety and has made it, I think, 7 of the 10 times of the playoff. And yet now here we are in the first time of the expanded playoff without Nick Saban, and they're likely not to get in. I mean, at this point, I would say it'd have to be a huge monumental push to put them in. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that Alabama's going to get in. I mean, like you said, they lost to Vanderbilt, which Vanderbilt is better this year, but they also lost to Oklahoma, who has struggled all year and was 6-6 and just did not look like a good team. And, they had 3 total losses and, the other one to Tennessee. So the Tennessee loss looks better. I will say that Alabama does have really good wins. They beat Georgia, which is the SEC champion. They beat Missouri. They beat South Carolina, who is obviously one of the hottest teams in the country right now. And they had another one I can't remember. But
LSU, technically.
LSU, yes, sorry, LSU. So that's 4 ranked teams at the time that they played, that they beat them, which is pretty solid. I would say that right now it should be Alabama, the first one out. Right next to them should probably be Miami, and then right after that should be South Carolina. And which is hard to say because then even Ole Miss probably would necessarily be above South Carolina because Ole Miss beat South Carolina. But South Carolina beat the ACC champion, and Ole Miss beat the SEC champion. So this is why we're splitting hairs with this one. But again, this is another reason why expanding to 16 will be a huge benefit to everything, because I think 16 is a pretty good number, because now we're okay, there's these 4 teams right here that probably deserve in, but once you get in past 16, it gets a little murkier of do those teams actually deserve? Because most of those teams 17 through 25, they'll have a legitimate shot to be there, but there'll be a lot of reasons why they don't deserve to be there. So I think right now those 13 through 16 still look like viable teams that should be in, and I think we'll get that. I don't think it's next year. I think it's the year after that we get 16. But no, this is I really think SMU deserves it. Their offense is really good. I think their defense is not as stout as I would like it to be for a top end team, but I think we're splitting hairs here. I think overall they're good enough to contend with anybody, and I think they deserve to have a shot to have a road playoff game and to prove if they belong or not. And I think they do. I think they deserve to be out there. As far as Indiana, I want to hear your thoughts on Indiana before we move on to something else, because I feel like That's not been talked a lot about them because obviously they're 11-1, so the record looks a lot better than most. But some people have taken shots at them. I want to hear your thoughts about them.
So they definitely don't have the strongest schedule. I think out of the teams in top 12, they do have the weakest one. But here's at least the one thing Indiana did do that other teams can't say they did, is that even with that paper soft schedule, they blew teams out, and it wasn't even close. Yeah. The closest games are obviously Michigan, who has a great defense, and you can't say that win looks bad because that team just beat Ohio State.
Yeah.
You can't say that. And then obviously the loss to Ohio State in Columbus. But other than that, they were blowing teams like, UCLA, Maryland, Northwestern, Washington, Nebraska. Well, Washington it was a 2-possession. Purdue, although they were winning by a lot. So they definitely look. Yeah, did they have a easy schedule? Sure, but they made the most of it. You can't say like, oh, they were kind of limping through it, kind of like that. They were winning these games, but not convincingly. There's no way you can tell me they won these games without, putting their pedal to the metal and just killing teams at certain points.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a huge fan of Indiana all year. It really started when they beat UCLA because, we cover UCLA. And so, like, watching that thrashing, and I was like, whoa, I did not expect that. And I totally was under the radar about Curt Cignetti, and I wish I had paid more attention to him. Obviously he did great at James Madison, and I knew of James Madison, but I didn't know specifically that coach was worthwhile or was elevating the play of that team. I just was like, oh, just James Madison's a really good team. But then seeing it translate from a group of 5 team to now to a Power 4 conference where, he obliterated a lot of teams. That last game where they needed to beat Purdue, they smoked them probably bigger than I've seen any Power 4 game all year. And that just proved that they probably deserve to be in there because of that fact, because it was like, oh, win and you're in type game. And they looked good, they smoked them. And I feel like Indiana definitely deserves it. I feel like SMU definitely deserves it. I feel like Tennessee does. Tennessee beat a good Alabama team. They beat Florida. They beat Vanderbilt. They beat Vanderbilt pretty handedly, and Vanderbilt beat Alabama and played Texas tough. So, this Tennessee team definitely deserves it. They have a really good defense. Their run game with Sampson is really strong, and I'm excited for this playoff because it's like, that's the thing I haven't talked about yet is the home playoff games. Do you folks realize, okay, we've had home playoff games in the NFL and the environment's great and it's, usually pretty good games in most of those games. But now we get that for the college game. We've never seen anything like that. We're getting teams from the South playing in the North. We're getting, big time schools, Notre Dame, Ohio State, getting home playoff games, maybe Penn State. So all these huge cathedrals of college football are getting to be able to host the first college football playoff games. It is setting up for such a amazing first week. I'm very excited. I know this has been something I have thought about for years. I even had a question in law school in our amateur sports law class talking about the antitrust stuff with certain teams not able to play for a playoff. And, it was, part of my argument. I know I didn't have the best antitrust argument, but I had basically a football argument about how unfair it was and how the fact that, these teams deserve to be able to be in a situation to be able to play for this. And now we're getting home playoff games. I'm telling you folks, you don't realize what we're getting. We're getting the biggest gift that has ever been given to college football. And I'm so excited for it. I wrote an article. It's on haterradio.com as well. So check that out. CFP Reimagined. And here we go. We've got ESPN talking about it. Strength of schedule. SMU is 60th compared to Alabama's 16th. Key wins: SMU, Louisville, and Duke. Key wins for Alabama is UGA and South Carolina.
So that was the argument they said, is that Alabama has better wins, but I'm like, yeah, but they got worse losses.
Yeah, and I think that's what you have to take that into account. And I think that's what is a struggle. Where I know it's like the other argument was with Miami and Alabama like last week, because Miami wasn't getting in because they didn't have great wins. And so, that's where the difference is here, where it's like, yes, Alabama has some good wins, but I think SMU has some pretty good wins. And they also got to the conference championship game, which I think that really is the difference for Miami, why they've like completely gone to the wayside, is because SMU got into the conference championship game, and you have to give weight to that. And I feel like they're going to. I feel like that is, definitely deserved. And even though they lost, yes, they lost by 3 points at the very last second and basically forced overtime. And so, I think, SMU deserves to get in. And Alabama, it really is tough. Like I said, if this was a 16 playoff, they would get in without a doubt. And this year just happens to be that they're on the cusp and they're not getting in. And it sucks for them, but it's just the reality. I don't know. This is taking forever. I just wish I thought it was going to be quicker.
They're
really like
Idol or whatever.
They're really well, now they're setting it up with because now they got someone at SMU. Interesting. I mean, I feel like SMU should get in. Like what is your percentage feel on if SMU gets in or not?
I'd go 80, 85.
Yeah, I think that's right. Because
I would be pretty confident in it. Because again, it's hard for me. SMU's only 2 losses have been to BYU and Clemson in the conference championship, and they were both by 3 points. Bama's losses have been to Vanderbilt, blown out by Oklahoma, and stomped by Tennessee.
Yeah, I agree. And
Bama hasn't proved they can win on the road.
Yeah, that too.
If you lose to Vandy on the road, like you lost to Vandy, Tennessee, and Oklahoma on the road.
I think the Vandy loss, it's weird because it's it feels different than years past. Like if this was Vandy years past, I would have been like, yeah, that's a terrible loss. But this year with Pavia, it's a little bit better because obviously they beat Va-Tech and they competed with Missouri and were competitive in most games. They were competitive against Texas, and it was definitely a better Vandy team than in years past. But that Oklahoma loss is terrible because that Oklahoma team was not good. They looked terrible all year. They couldn't do anything offensively, and that game wasn't really a huge offensive output for Oklahoma against Alabama. It was it was basically Milroe making a bunch of mistakes and then some phantom penalty that took away a touchdown that could have changed the outcome of that game. But okay, so it's 2 minutes coming up. Is it exclusive reveal? Are we getting the reveal? This is why I hate ESPN, because they do this where it's we're just gonna have to sit here and wait through commercials and just I
got my jerseys to show off to the crowd and buy time. I can do that.
Yeah. I'm sorry, folks. We want to be able to react to this. We thought it was going to be sooner. I thought it was going to last year. It felt like they jumped right in.
They were quick last year.
Yeah, last year it was instant and it was done. But obviously it was 6 teams that had to worry about. Now it's
I've got my backup plan set if you need.
Yeah. Let's see these jerseys.
Okay. Well, one of my favorites, Emmitt Smith, 1980s style, Ring of Honor.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And I've always said that I know the Gators have an orange jersey, but me is nitpicky. I want them to have it in the 80s style with no out here kind of comparison to So pretty much this, but orange is what they wear now. But you can tell this has no like blue inline with it.
Yeah, yeah.
And the stripes are different. So if they did like a 1980s one or like a 1984 SEC champs thing, that'd be sick.
Yeah.
Also, Emmitt Smith. This one I got Percy Harvin on it. And then the 1960s, Steve Spurrier.
Oh yeah, nice.
I've got like 5 more somewhere else.
Nice. Well, hey, no. Let's talk a little bit about what was I going to say? I'm trying to think. I'm just stalling it here, folks, because we're almost here. The end of the commercial break. I'm glad they do a timer so we can at least tell how quick we're back from commercial. But I'm just trying to think because it's like, SMU definitely deserves to get in. And I think we've all agreed on that. I mean, there's, I think the consensus with most people is that SMU deserves to get in. I think really the only people that are fighting it are Alabama, even though I'm seeing some people, I'm seeing some Fox people put Alabama in, which is surprising. I know because I'm seeing the guy RJ Young from Fox and Joel Klatt put them up there too. RJ Young put Army at 13, which, that's who's RJ? That's funny. Man, it's crazy because it's like, God, I can't believe the season is already over.
Yeah, I know.
It's been so long, and it's like,
this was one of the craziest years I've been. This was like up there with 2007 with the amount of upsets.
Yeah, this has been a crazy year, and I've been, glad to be able to be a part of this. Okay, here we go. They're breaking it down. Looks like they're going to tell us who these teams are finally.
5 highest ranked conference champions. Yep.
They're just telling like what the scenarios of like how the logistics of all these are. Yeah, and I think that that 12th seed is probably going to be Clemson, right?
Probably.
They're the worst
conference champion.
Winner. Yeah. So I know the other thing that needs to be done is that they need to go to for the quarterfinals. They need to have those as home playoff games as well, because I think it's just they need to do that. Like it needs to be. They need to have the people with the first round bye have a home playoff game as well. I think that's the only fair way of doing it. Okay, it looks like we're getting ready to go. Come on, Reese Davis, give us what we want.
Me something good.
Yeah, it looks like it is. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Are you? I'm gonna.
I might be a little behind here. So
okay.
All right. Yeah, they just showed the field.
Do you want me to narrate, or how do you want me to do this?
Do it. All you.
Okay, so Oregon gets the 1.
Yep.
I don't know what they have them in the inside track there, not on the top. So I don't know if that means they're at like the Fiesta Bowl location. Georgia's number 2, which I think, okay, they're away from each other. That makes sense. So if they met, it would be in the championship game. Number 3, probably
Arizona State.
Yeah, probably. Because then I think maybe it's Boise. I don't know.
Oh, Boise. Boise might be. Yeah, it might be Boise actually. Come on. My thing just. Oh.
Yeah, they're just showing their. Yeah.
They just show the first. Ugh. I'll show them.
Yeah.
Keep it up. I'll show my hockey jerseys to threaten them.
Yeah.
I got way more of those.
No. So and also Boise does have a good win against Washington State as well. I forgot to mention that earlier. So, but I like Arizona State. Their resume looks really good. Kansas State, BYU, Iowa State, because that was all 3 of the toughest teams in the Big 12. So that looks really good for Arizona State. So I think Arizona State will get the 3 just because that look alone.
I think they can mix and match 3 and 4 with Boise State and.
Yeah, I would like to see Arizona State just to see if they gave it to Boise. Wow, that's a surprise. So Arizona State's 4. God, who would have thought Boise State would be the 3 seed coming into this? I don't think anybody would have thought that. Like, I honestly don't. Like, you would have bet like $1 million that it would be anybody but that, and I would have been like, yeah, it's a good bet.
Let alone that it's a group of 5 school with a first round bye. All right, come on.
Oh, Army? It'd have to be Army.
What?
For the other bye?
Oh, for if it was a group of 5?
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yep, Arizona State.
Yeah, and I like that. That's cool. Good for them. They deserve it. And they're such a surprise team because, I think those losses to Cincinnati and Texas Tech early really kind of like, threw people off. And they're like, is this team any good? And they just kept winning. Like every week. They played bigger and bigger teams every week. And it was like, just keep winning. And they proved it on the field. They really did. And they deserve to be where they're at. And I'm glad for them here. And this is where we're getting to the real crux of this whole argument here. So they'll probably do the 5-12 last.
I think Texas would be it would go Texas and then Penn State.
Yeah, Texas. I think Texas deserves because they lost twice to the SEC champion, and they barely lost the second time in basically home territory. So they're saying the CFP rankings, Arizona State was 12. You see that on the side? Interesting. Oh man, this is crazy.
So that means Clemson might have been.
Clemson was the 12. Okay, all right.
Okay.
Yeah, Clemson was a bad ranking, so they weren't going to get. Yeah, I'm curious to see who this is going to be. I hope they don't show the 5. I hope they show, or maybe they'll show the 5. They need to show the 11 last.
Yeah,
the 11 is the SMU pick. If it is SMU. Come on, let's go. Yeah, Clemson, man. You would have thought they were, Texas, you're right. 5.
And then Penn State will be next.
Good matchup. I actually, out of the games I might go to, that might be the game that I go to.
Clemson, Texas?
Yeah, I might go to it because I was thinking about going to one of these games, and I think I might just go to that one just because the weather isn't so bad, So it's like at least I can like figure out things that way. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to go just because of I'm working like maybe the next 2 weeks, so I may not be able to even pull it off. Let's see. Next one would be 7-8, right? No. 6-11? No, it's 7-8 is. Oh no, 8. It's 8-9. Sorry, 8-9. 8-9 would be.
That's probably like Ohio State, Tennessee range, one of those.
Yeah, but I wonder if they're going to go Penn State. Yeah, 6.
Penn State
6-11. I don't. What are they going to show it now? I don't think they're going to show it now. No way. They're going to wait to show that one last. They got to show.
They're going 5 because they had to get the conference champions. Now they're going 5.
Yeah,
6,
now they can.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
They can do this a little bit different. But let's see. Yeah, Penn State was 4, which makes sense. I think Penn State was the 4th best team. I know people have made an argument that they're not, but I feel like they are. Like, I think their offense is good enough. And yes, they've lost the 2 games that they were Notre Dame number 7. Yeah, we're going over there. Well, that's when I might go to is Notre Dame because my cousin lives in Indianapolis, which is not far, and then also my friend.
Please let them play Indiana. Please let them play
Oh,
Indiana.
yeah, that'd be cool.
They're looking like they're about to drink some Kool-Aid there in South Bend.
Yeah.
Like, Brother Leonard, please join us for some fruit punch.
Yeah.
All right, come on. Now we need 8. This is probably Ohio State or Tennessee.
Yeah, Ohio State. They get the home game. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to go to like Ohio State or Notre Dame, but it's going to be really cold. And like
Tennessee would play them?
Who? Yeah, Tennessee. That's what it's been slotted. It's been
so it likely this is either going to be Tennessee or Indiana's got to go back to Columbus.
I don't think they would. I don't think they would do that. I think Tennessee has already been in that 9 hole. So come on. So it's Indiana, Tennessee, and then the SMU or Alabama choice.
Yeah.
Tennessee, yep. Oh, that's a good. I would love to see that game. That'd be a great game.
I know in Columbus.
Yeah, I honestly, if I could pull that off, I would want to pull that one off the most.
I think they played once in the 90s.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't remember. I can't remember specifically, but I do.
It was like an Orange or Fiesta
Bowl. Oh, I think they played. Yeah, they played in like a Citrus Bowl, I believe.
Yeah, 96. Citrus Bowl.
Yeah.
Can't spell citrus without UT.
Yeah, it wasn't 96. Wait, no, maybe it was 96 the year before Florida played for the national championship. Maybe you're right. It was the 96 bowl season.
Yeah.
Which would be the year after the 95 or the games after the 95 season.
Okay, so this is Indiana. They would play. So Indiana plays Notre Dame then, right?
I would think. Yeah, that makes the most sense.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's a good game.
Come on. I have it muted, so I don't even know what they're talking about.
Neither do I. I'm not listening. I don't want to even really hear what they're saying.
No, I just hear like a still image and then like, come on. Indiana.
They've only played each other once. Yeah, Indiana. Yeah.
Indiana. All right.
We're getting that last one.
This has got to be either SMU or Bama.
So Tennessee and Ohio State have only played each other once. And it was... Yep, Citrus Bowl. Yep, 96. You're right, Ian. And Tennessee won that one. Here we go. I'm telling you, folks, it's probably SMU.
It should be SMU. That's what I'll say.
It's got to be SMU. I don't think they can't reward Alabama. They cannot. This would be... People would riot, man.
Oh, you guys suck. Just stop with the Reddit. Just show it.
Just give us what we want.
I know. It's like you keep seen this graphic a million times. Look, I make graphics for the Clearwater Threshers. I know they're impressive and they're hard to make, but like enough is enough.
Yeah, exactly. Ah, come on.
All right, come on.
I'm not going to say anything when it happens. I want to hear your reaction.
Okay. I'm just got a 1,000-yard stare on my screen right now.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for whatever logo to pop up.
Yeah.
Let it be a Mustang. Come on.
Really milking this one.
I don't know. I could have gotten a season in my emulator.
Yeah.
My Dynasty emulate. I have an emulator that has NCAA 04. I could have probably gone through a season right now with the amount of time they're taking.
This is ridiculous.
All right. Come on. SMU.
I knew it.
All right. Yeah, they got it right.
I'm grateful that they did it.
I know Tuscaloosa isn't happy, but you can't tell me, yeah, this is the right field. Because the only 3-loss team that's in won the conference championship. So that means Miami and Bama are like, yep, Bama, and then likely Miami.
Yeah, Miami's second team out. Yep.
Yep, there it is. All right.
They have SMU at 10.
You guys are going to.
They have SMU at 10. As far as their rankings.
Yeah, they didn't fall too hard. All right, yeah. So there's our field. SMU.
Nice.
Oh man, they gotta go to Happy Valley.
Yeah, that should be a good game.
Indiana and Notre Dame. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I honestly, out of all those, I probably want to see Ohio State, Tennessee the most.
Yeah,
I think that's the one that should be. Oh man, Saban's on. I bet he's real.
He's wearing red too.
Sorry, Saban. Not much you can do, man.
Yeah, man.
Woo.
I mean, when you lose 3 games and 2 of them are lost teams, I mean that's tough.
It really is, and I don't understand why the Bama fans are so upset about this. Is like objectively, if you look at it, like SMU just has a better resume. Like, SMU beats Duke, beats Pitt, beats all these other teams, goes 11-1 in conference, or 11-1 throughout their season. They play BYU, they play TCU. They went to the conference championship game, lost by 1 point. And in that BYU game, I'm almost positive that Jennings didn't even play all of it. I'm going to look at it right now. I'm almost positive he didn't play all of it. Oh, he did play all of it. But that was like his first start, I believe, because Preston Stone played like the Nevada game and I think maybe one other game. So like you can't really look at that BYU game because it was so early and Jennings just was coming on. So like, I think this SMU team deserves it. Alabama, they did their best, but those 3 losses that they had, it just doesn't look good. And it's like, I don't care. Like they didn't make if they had made the conference championship game and played Georgia, maybe you could argue even with that loss that they would have deserved. But right now it's like, I don't think they deserved it. And it's like, it's funny if it had been Georgia that had lost and it was between Georgia, Alabama, and SMU, I think Georgia would have gone because of conference championship game and SMU would have as well. And so like Alabama would have been screwed regardless. So tough break for them, but this is the right playoff. SMU deserves to be in there. And that's just our opinion. Do you have any more thoughts before we close it out?
So the only thing, just looking on face value, I'm seeing like who's got the best shot at going in to going all the way to the national championship. And looking at the bracket, of the 5 teams they would potentially have to play, Georgia looks good against all of them. Georgia would either have to play Indiana or Notre Dame, and I think they can win those games. And then they would either play Penn State, SMU, or Boise State. That's doable in the semifinal. And then it might come down to the national championship. Because I'm just looking at like the path of the bracket. I'm like, Georgia is looking good there because Oregon would have to play Ohio State or Tennessee, which I think Oregon would win, but I mean, Ohio State played them close, and then they would either, if they do that, they'd either have to play Clemson, Texas, or Arizona State. If they play Texas, that might be like a national championship game right there.
Yeah, I wish Texas had won the SEC championship game because I would like to see them in a better path to the championship game, but they didn't win, so they don't deserve it. But yeah, so Tennessee, Indiana, and then Tennessee, Ohio State, and then Texas, Clemson. Wait, who does Tennessee, Ohio State play in the second round?
They would play Oregon.
And then Texas, Clemson plays who?
They would play. Oh wait, no, hang on, sorry. So let me get the bracket.
They'd play Arizona State.
Play Arizona State.
Yeah, so maybe Oregon doesn't have I think it's equal. I think as much as like we're trying to decipher who has an easier path, I think it's about equal because Penn State, Notre Dame, Indiana, Boise State are all pretty solid, and SMU we'll see. Like they may be someone that raises up. They could get the win against Penn State. We don't know, but I feel like yes, it seems like it's easier, but I think if you look at it like as a whole, I think it does kind of even out between all these teams. And I think it did. I think for the first time as an expanded playoff, I think this is as good of a snapshot of who the best 12 teams are in the country. And I think they did a very good job of getting that. And I think with the rankings, it evenly spread out every team. And, we're getting, like I said, we're getting Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Ohio State home playoff games. What more could you ask for cathedrals of college football, all, 80,000 or more seat stadiums? Like we're going to get, this is going to be, I'm telling you what, man, it's going to be a tremendous first weekend of football playoffs. And I'm excited. You got anything else we're going to?
No, that'll be it.
So that is the show, everyone. We are Hater Radio. Thank you for tuning in this early. It's early for me. I got up at like 6:30 today, but no, it's been a great year so far. It's the official end of the regular season. We're going to jump into postseason stuff the next couple of weeks. Wednesday, me and Ian are doing a debate about the Heisman. Ian is taking Travis Hunter's case, and I'm going to take Ashton Genty's case, and we'll debate that on Wednesday. So tune in for that. I have articles about the CFP, about how much I enjoy it and the fact that we got the home playoff games. That is already out there on the website on haterradio.com. I'll have an article for you Florida fans regarding the momentum and the proof of concept of what Billy Napier's been doing this season and going forward. And that'll be up there probably tomorrow. And then find us on all the socials, Hater Radio for X, Twitter, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. You can find us on all of them. Just type in Hater Radio. Like, subscribe, comment, follow, share, everything. Help us out there. Ian, what are your socials before we go?
Yeah, it's at Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. It's at G_Gator_G.
So that is the show. We'll talk to you Wednesday. Have a good one. Take care.